It's all about communication.
Hey Andy, let us know about Andy and what you do.
Or I run a property photography company. It allows people to walk through a home, experience a house without having to, go to the house. So it's great in kind of the pandemic for it cuts back on the amount of people going into your home, and it allows you to, visit different places without, exposing yourself or exposing other
Wow.
people. So
Is this like based on virtual reality?
yeah, exactly. So you can even in like with like VR goggles, there you it's actually it works with VR goggles. So if you have VR goggles, you could actually, like literally like walk through a house. Like the cool thing that I found in Europe about the diversity was it's so easy in the European Union to move between borders and get jobs in different areas and whatnot, there's more of an exchange of cultures, and it's just more noticeable and more accessible. Whereas in the US, we have our country is bigger than Europe, but because it's just this one kind of umbrella culture within the country, and don't get me wrong, there are, like, you go to Florida and there's more signs written in Spanish than there are in English. And so it's, and even actually in Boston, a lot of signs are written in English and Spanish, and it's cool to see that diversity. But it's also, I think it's much easier to not see it if you want to. It's much easier to just stick to your people and never really mingle with anybody else. There's probably to some extent something to be said about that in every country, I would say. But I just, the situations I was in and the experiences that I put myself through, I was around that diversity and more cultures more often. So yeah, it was just kind of, I saw it a lot and definitely appreciated it. That's one of the things I like about traveling is experiencing those cultures and kind of adapting to them a bit, and like in Ireland, adapting some of the like language that they use and the words and the phrases and the things that like that. But I feel like there's a balance, because obviously you want to keep what's your cultures and those things that are important to you as well. So there's definitely a balance. And I imagine for anybody that would immigrate to the US or immigrate wherever, really, you have to kind of be able to plant yourself, I think, and be able to find roots in this country. So you kind of do have to adapt to it, but at the same time, you want to, in my mind, you want to be able to keep your identity in a sense too. But I was kind of exposed to European culture from a bit of an earlier age, but so I've always appreciated it. But I think it's something that's very learned also, to be more accepting of and have that patience of being like, all right, and understanding of, okay, this person is coming at this situation with a totally different background and mindset than I am, and I think that's something that not a lot of people can appreciate and understand. And I think it would make the world so much more peaceful
Exactly.
place if more people had it.
If you were to say there's one thing you like about the US and one thing you dislike.
I dislike how politically radioactive the culture is.
Do you think this is because it's always been like hidden and now it's out in the open? Or is it because people were better off not talking about politics?
I think people have always talked about politics, but there was more of a respect previously. But I think during the last presidency, it became much more acceptable to just be so polarizing in your opinions, where it was like, if you don't agree with me, there were so many people on both sides that were like, if you are going to vote for Trump, then I'm never going to, I'm just defriending you, unfriending you on Facebook, and we're never going to talk again, and if you vote for Biden, I'm unfriending you, and I feel like things got, and that was the point where it was like this huge split, and it just keeps like snowballing, and I think it's settled down a little bit, because there's not a tweet going out every day that's like blowing everything up like constantly. I have a few people that I know that like voted for Trump, and they didn't vote for him because of his tweets and how, and all the other things, but they voted for him because a couple of his policies, and they like the ideas of his policies, and that's what it should be. It should be about that, and that's what people should be able to discuss, is the policies and what this person is going to do for the country versus this person. And like, so I politics came away from that and more about like you know, what the person eats for breakfast, and, you know, if they're funny or not, or if they're, you know, it's like it became more personal than actually like what they're gonna do, and it's a very tricky line. And I know now even more so, because, you know, now with like everybody is in the limelight, is held to such a fine-tooth comb of like their actions and everything, and it's a tricky thing to navigate. I think that just polarization has changed the country so much, just that it's like if you're associated with this idea, no matter what your other ideas are, I'm just lumping you into this ball of people that I don't like. What do I like about the country? I think the ideals of the country, you know, like what we say are our ideals, and what we, you know, what the country says are the things that make us great. And, you know, like that's the thing that are at the, they're just like, they're underneath everything else, that, and people express them in so many different ways. And I think some people express the same like ideals but in totally different ways, and then they're like, oh no, and then they clash. Whereas like if you go down below the surface, you guys want the same thing, you know. So I think like there is this baseline in the country of people who want to just work hard and do what they need to do to survive. And like we were saying, you know, no matter what your political views are, you can find something in common as a human being, you know. But I think there is a foundation that's there that I feel like people lose sight of a lot of the opportunity of that, you know, that people have in the country. And
Absolutely. Your favorite American dish?
Probably macaroni and cheese is a favorite. My mom makes a killer homemade macaroni and cheese. Pulled pork is a close second, and you put pulled pork and macaroni and cheese together.
Would you describe the American culture as open-minded or closed-minded?
I would say closed-minded overall, because I think the culture is very tricky, because I think no, like nobody likes change, no matter where you are. I think, you know, nobody likes to change. They get comfortable in their routine, and that they don't want anything to change, you know. And so when you get to a certain point, you know, I think there is a lot of people that are on their routine, and it is what it is, and blah blah blah. But I think overall, you're closed-minded until you need to change, until you need to be open-minded, and then there's an opportunity to progress. I know there are a lot of things now that are second nature, or that are accepted, that, you know, 20, 30 years ago were like, how dare you try to do blah blah blah, you know. So it's funny, because I wouldn't say we were ever open-minded, and as a whole, everybody was like, yes, let's be open and try this new thing. Like there's always pushback to everything new. On the surface, closed-minded, but it's like, you know, it's slowly like generationally open-minded. If you look at it as a whole, like as over like 20 years, you know, if you were to see the differences in what it was 20 years ago to what it is now, you'd be like, wow, it's a really open-minded culture. They've changed a lot. They've adapted a lot of new things. But if you look at the year to year, day to day, no, like it's like, no, you know. So
that is so interesting.
Yeah.
New York,
Statue of Liberty,
Texas,
Longhorns,
hockey,
Bruins,
culture,
celebrations,
family,
love,
racism,
misunderstood.
Bro, I really, really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you. See you.